Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is Real Estate Investing, Is It For You? So I imagine that you're here because you think it might be for you. And I have a spoiler alert, which is that I think some form of real estate investing can work for everyone. So why am I here? Actually, somebody asked me that today. What's in it for you? They said. Why do you do these classes? What's in it for you? And I will tell you honestly that I just really adore helping people become real estate investors. It's like a thrill for me. It's like a new duck, pushing her baby out of the nest or something. It's really, it's very fun and fulfilling and rewarding. Sometimes some people that I meet at these seminars want to work with me as a real estate agent, and that is also very fun for me. I enjoy that. But I know that people joining today might be from all over the country. It may not be appropriate for us to work together, or for some reason, something I say at this presentation might make you feel like you don't want to work with me, but that's okay. As long as this gives you some ideas and some thoughts about how to become a real estate investor, then I'm happy. It's appropriate that I'm in this very rustic setting today because this happens to be a house hack, which is one way of investing in real estate that I really like. And we're going to talk some more about that afterward. But more for now, I want to know, why are you here? What do you want real estate to do for you? I was speaking with some folks. You can just put your answers in the chat. We're not going to let everybody unmute themselves and let things go crazy here, but I do want to know some responses. I know I was chatting with someone earlier today who wants to get into commercial real estate. And commercial real estate is an interesting time for that, but I don't want to detour. I want to keep us to stay really focused. So just put your answers in the chat and I'll review them and see and make sure that I incorporate your desire, what you want to get out of this class as we move forward. And definitely any questions that you have, just put them into the chat and we'll address them as they come up. Okay? So why is real estate so great? Why am I so excited about real estate? Well, let me first ask you, if you wanted to invest $250,000 into a stock, how much money do you need? Yeah, $250,000, pretty much. That's the answer. Plus sometimes, well, back in the day, you also needed to pay a broker fee. But with real estate, you can buy $250,000 worth of real estate for sometimes, if you're a veteran or if you're a physician or if you're in a specific category, you can buy $250,000 worth of real estate for nothing, for 3% down, for 3.5% down, for 5% down. There are a lot of ways that you can start getting invested in real estate with a very, very low amount of capital, much lower than if you wanted stocks or other types of investments. So that's the ability to leverage. We call that leveraging, when you use something small to lift something big, like a house. Tax deductions are another big one. If you know anything about real estate investing, you will know that everything you do is a tax deduction. And for example, if you happen to live in the house as well, which is the case with most house hacks, then basically a lot of your own expenses are going to be tax deductible. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. Depreciation. This is a little bit of a strange concept to understand unless you're a tax person, but basically if you buy a piece of real estate, there's a schedule that the IRS uses, pretty much saying that on this day, the property will have depreciated down to zero, so it will no longer be worth anything. So if I build a brand new house today, how long do you think it will take before that house is basically fallen into the ground and has no value at all? We're not talking about the land. This is just the real estate itself. Yeah, I mean, 100 years. I mean, I own a piece of property that's 200 years old. But according to the IRS, a single-family home or an apartment, a multifamily, two-family apartment building, that's going to be worth nothing in 29 and a half years. So every year, they allow you to take 129 and a half of that. So if the property is worth $295,000, every year $10,000 is going to come off your taxes. So if you're making $12,000 in rent, all of a sudden you're only making $2,000 on your taxes. So that's one of the reasons that depreciation is so amazing. and you want a CPA, you're going to need a CPA, you're going to want to work with a CPA to make sure that you're getting your proper depreciation. And the next thing I love about real estate, how many different kinds of real estate are there? Yeah, you've got commercial, you've got residential, you've got a hair salon, you've got a restaurant, you've got a home in the woods, a home in the mountains, millions and millions of different kinds of real estate. And that's diversity. You can, no matter what kind, that's why I said at the beginning, no matter what kind of real estate, no matter who you are, there's a good chance that there is a type of real estate investing that will work for you. And you're going to find out that there is even more diversity in real estate investing than you ever even imagined. Stability. Do you remember what happened in March to the stock market when all of a sudden COVID hit? The stock market just like tanked. Boom! Went really, really low. And that can happen when a lot of people are making a lot of crazy decisions and they're not sure what to do, and all of a sudden the stock market has to react to that. But real estate is much, much slower. If you pay attention to what's going on in the market, like, is real estate going to go down now? It could, because we are aware of these forces that are outside forces that are influencing that. Some people can't pay their rent. Some people are going to need to sell their property because their tenants aren't paying their rent, for example. So that is one example of the stability of the real estate market. They're really, you hear about crashes, but they are not overnight crashes. If you're paying attention, you can see that that particular situation is probably going to occur. Tangibility. When I buy a stock, all I get basically is a line item on my computer that says, oh, you own the stock. But when I own a piece of property, I mean, I'm in an investment right now. I'm inside. I'm broadcasting from an actual investment that I have made in real estate. And it's there. You can go, you can visit it, you can live in it, you can paint it if you want to. It's a real thing. It's not quite as much more touchable than a piece of stock or something like that. And control. Let's say that I don't care for the way that Microsoft is responding to the pandemic. So I call them up and I say, look, I've got $250,000 worth of your stock. And I got to tell you, I'm not happy with the way things are being done. I mean, how do you think that's going to go? But if it's my property, like here in this little house hack, I make all the decisions and I can change things. If I say, oh, you know what? I'm going to take this little shed and I'm going to turn it into an investment property. I can make that decision. If I want to change the paint, if I want to change the rent, that's all within my control, much more so than with another type of investment. And it's a forced retirement account. If you take out a loan to buy a piece of real estate, you're going to have to pay on that loan every single month. And at the end of the year, at the end of the 30 years or however long your mortgage is, you are going to have saved up at least that $250,000. Let's stick with that. So, and if you do it right, it's your tenants who have made all those payments, and you now have something that is worth a lot more than it was when you bought it, especially if you leave it for a while. And real estate does not always go up, and we're going to talk about that later. But in the long run, like with the stock market, it has always ended up higher than it was. So now I would ask you to rate yourself, and this will help you when we're talking about different kinds of real estate investing. How comfortable are you, or I should say, what are your financial resources? Are you a person who's looking to invest with nothing? Are you a person who has looking for a cash investment because you have a lot of money that you have been saving, or that you sold another asset or something? So if you have a lot of money, you want to give yourself like a 10. If you say, oh, I'm going to buy a cash and then want to go with it, then give yourself a 10. And if you're thinking, gee, I wonder how I'm going to get the money to pay the closing costs, then give yourself, a smaller number, 1 or 2 or whatever. And obviously if you're somewhere in between, because like I said, this is going to help you later. Now, risk. Every type of investment has some risk. So are you a person who's really a lot more comfortable leaving your money under the mattress because you feel like that way no one's going to be able to take it from you? Or are you a person who feels like, oh, you're going to spend money to make money? I understand that there is some risk involved, and I'm okay with that. I want to just let it roll, let it ride. That person will be a 10. The person with the money under the mattress would be a 1, and you're probably somewhere in there in that continuum. So then knowledge. Do you know anything already about real estate investing? Are you handy? Do you already know how to fix things up? All those sorts of knowledge, anything related to anything that could help you in this real estate world, that would be add to your point. So if you know everything, give yourself a 10. If you're just learning and you just feel like you know nothing, give yourself a 1. And hopefully you're somewhere in between, that you at least know places to get some knowledge, for example. Even that is a type of knowledge in itself. And the last one is time. There are 2 pieces of the time component. There is the time that it takes you to actually do things in the house. Do you have any time to invest in doing any DIY? Do you have time to invest in doing your own property management? But there's also how much time is it that you can stay invested in this piece of property before you need it to make a return. So those are the 2 components of time that you want to take into consideration. And if you want to give yourself 2 different ratings, that's perfectly fine. Okay, now let's get into some of the different types of investment. I have a feeling that some of these are going to be investments that you're not familiar with, and then some are going to be ones that you hear about all the time. If you listen to anything like Bigger Pockets or any of these sort of podcasts that talk about investing, you've probably heard of them. But some of them I think are going to surprise you. One of the ones that I think might surprise you is a turnkey investment. Basically, this is a situation where some management company has come in, they've bought a piece of property that was in bad repair. They've completely fixed it up, got it all nice and shiny, and then they've put some tenants in there, usually with at least a year lease, sometimes with a 2-year lease. A lot of times they're tenants who are on some type of assistance, but or because a lot of these are in lower income neighborhoods, so you might have tenants who are on some rental assistance, or you might have tenants who, and basically you want they want to get people in there who they feel are going to stay for a good amount of time. And then you buy the property from them with the tenant in place. And they just send you a check every month along with a little report and sometimes a little newsletter that tells you what's going on. And these can be fantastic. If you don't know anything, if you've got some money but you don't know anything about, okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So turnkey investing is one type of investing. Selling paper, investing with others, buy and hold. Commercial, you can buy and hold commercial, you can buy and hold residential, and I would consider a BRRRR, which is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, and house hacking and Airbnb would all be considered this buy and hold scenario. You can do a flip, which I think everybody's familiar with, or you can develop a brand new piece of property. So let's talk quickly about turnkey, which I already did a little spoiler and told you all about it before, but basically, it's very hands-off. As a matter of fact, if you take out a loan for this type of property, you can't be the manager. The bank will not let you be the manager. You have to pay a manager. You can use a self-directed IRA to buy turnkey property. You can use leverage. It has a lot of tax advantages. You don't need a ton of money because you can get a loan. So see at the bottom, I've got these little money, risk, knowledge, time things. Money neutral, a lot or a little is fine. Risk neutral, you have to have some level of risk, but it's not a particularly risky investment because professionals are basically handling all the tough stuff. You don't need a ton of knowledge, but you should have some knowledge. And time, it takes almost no time. So you'll see these are just, rather than say, oh, money's a 3 or whatever, I just use pluses and minuses, but that can help you if you feel that you fall into this category with sort of neutral on all those things, but you don't have a ton of time, maybe turnkey is for you. And wholesaling, again, hardly any money, tons of risk, you need a lot of knowledge, and you need a lot of time, because wholesaling is where you are finding an opportunity. You are finding a piece of property that somebody wants to sell. It's not going to be on the market already, most likely. And then once you find that seller who wants to sell at below market because they want a quick sale or they want a cash sale or whatever, then you go out and you find a buyer an investor who's going to be willing to pay you some type of a finder's fee, basically, for putting them together with that seller. And that's basically what that is. So that's going to be a lot of footwork. It's going to be, I mean, you can fall into those kind of things, but in general, there's going to be a lot of footwork to running around and finding somebody who's willing to sell their place for below market. And then you also have to have your pool of sellers ready to sweep in. And there are some great tools you can use for this to calculate how much the repair the house is going to need, calculate how much it could sell for. And you would probably want to make a relationship with a real estate agent because they often have sellers who they can recommend and refer to you. Investing with others. So if you know somebody who is a developer, if you know somebody who has a real estate a piece of real estate that they want to buy or whatever, you can invest with them. You can give them some of your money to be a partner in their investment. So basically, you are either loaning them money or you're actually buying a percentage, and you're expecting some type of return on that investment, whether it's appreciation if you're the owner, it'd be appreciation over time plus hopefully an income stream from the rents, or it would be you would get some type of, if you're lending the money, then you would get some kind of a interest, some type of a payback. So again, check out the bottom and see if you are fit for those. You can't leverage this type of investment because you are actually the leverage. Buy and hold. So I was saying before, there's a lot that falls into this category. It basically means that you're buying a piece of real estate with the intention of hanging on to it. So it could be commercial or residential. You can live there, you can work there. If it's commercial, maybe you want to have your office there in addition to some other properties and some other units in the building that would be for rent for other people. Airbnb, BRRRR, house hacking, which I think we should talk a little bit about. Airbnb is one of my favorite ways of renting property. I like it because I can also use the property myself when I want to, and the people who are renting from you, they're pretty much on vacation. They're usually pretty mellow, pretty happy. You don't get a lot of phone calls about this or that doesn't work or something. And also, Airbnb collects the money in advance before when the people reserve, Airbnb already has the money. So you're not ever chasing tenants for money. If Airbnb can't get the money, then they're going to let you know that they can't collect and the person's reservation is canceled. BRRRR is basically you buy a piece of property, you renovate it. So you buy a piece of property. This actually happens with cash. BRRRR is with cash. So you buy a piece of property with cash. You go in, you renovate it, whatever it needs. And hopefully in the beginning, you're just going to find something that needs cosmetics. But you do your renovation and then you get somebody in there to rent. So you rent out the property to somebody. And then once you've got that tenant in place, you go to the bank and you say, look, I want to cash out. I want to take my money out of this place. And here's the lease. I've got this person paying, and the bank will normally allow you to take out some percentage of the money that you've invested. And if you did a good job fixing it up, you might be able to get back 100% of the money that you put into it. So say you buy your $250,000 piece of property, you put another 10 or 20,000 into it to class things up, you paint the cabinets, you make everything pretty, maybe put granite and replace some appliances or whatever, and then you get it looking really nice, you get a good tenant in there, and then that's when an appraiser will come out. When you ask for your loan, the appraiser comes out and says, gee, this property's now worth $300,000 and we're willing to loan you 70%. Cool. Now you can take basically $310,000. Did I do that? No, $210,000. Oh, sorry, I can't think right now. Yeah, if you've got to leave 30% in, then that's $90,000. So you can take $210,000 out of the property. So basically, for $40,000, you have managed to secure a piece of property and do a great job. But a lot of times you can pull it all out. Like I said, it depends on how much the bank's willing to give you and how much you have, how much great of a deal you were able to get in the beginning. And then house hacking, another one of my personal favorites, is when you are taking a piece of property that was one thing, and you're basically kind of hacking it to make it something else. So this, as I said, this little cabin where I am is an example of a house hack, because I bought an investment property to put on Airbnb, and it had a little, I think, say a wood shed or a little work shed in the back. It's about 200 square feet. And when I saw it, I knew right away I was going to turn it into an Airbnb tiny house. And so that's what I did. I did, minimal repairs. I put in a bathroom, obviously. I put a loft so that you can have a sleeping area. And then I furnished it, did a little bit of plumbing and a deck. And it's really cute. And as of this week, actually, I've had my first 2 guests to come here, and it seems to be really popular. I have over 10 people already booked to come and stay at the house. So that's an example of something. It didn't cost me anything additional to buy this little lot. You can do the same thing with a garage. You can do it with your house. Maybe if you live in a house and you rent out 1 bedroom, that is essentially a house hack, because you've added revenue without adding anything new, without doing anything different. So you already had the house, and now you're just getting some more money without doing anything in particular. So the key to buy and hold is that you have a steady cash flow. You want to make sure that you're going to have some type of steady cash flow coming in. A lot of times with a buy and hold, you might live there. Lots of tax advantages, and you can see you need to have a little knowledge and you need to have a little of your own time, but it's definitely work. A flip, most of people have heard of a flip. So basically, buy it, fix it, sell it. That's the definition of a flip. You're going to buy it, you're going to fix it and sell it, normally pretty quickly. If you want to do a true flip, you don't want that from the time you buy it till the time you no longer own it. It should be 6 months or less, especially when the market can be a little shaky, a little volatile. You don't want to spend so much time fixing it up that the market starts to go down, and that's not good. So ordinarily, you're going to have to be hands-on with a flip. You can, especially as you get better, you can supervise the people who are doing the flip, but you do need to know what you're doing. So this is perfect if you're already in the construction trades, if you're already handy, if you know what you're doing when you're supervising somebody. Then a flip could be for you. You need some money, because you're going to need money to fix it up. There's some risk involved, because if it takes you too long, you're going to be chasing the market. You need to know what you're doing, and it takes some time. Not time before you see your investment, but time to manage it. And developing, which is the most, you require the most knowledge when you're developing a property. If you want to work with somebody who's already a developer, that's was our number 2 option, where you're just investing some money with somebody. But if you want to actually take, for example, a piece of land or a type of building that's going to get torn down, you want to take that and do something totally new with it and go through the whole planning process and stuff, you definitely need some knowledge. And if you are thinking of doing this and you haven't done it before, try to partner with somebody who has the experience. So what do you think? Actually, I don't want to go there yet. Of the types of real estate that we've talked about, anything, John, you want to tell us what, put in the chat, or I guess if you want to come off mute, you can, and tell us what type of real estate you think would be for you.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Okay. No, well, as you know, I have a five units in North Conway.
Mm-hmm.
And I have about, 50% equity in there. So how would I use that equity to purchase more properties?
Oh, that's an excellent point, because once you've got a piece of property and you've got it up and running and you've got a positive cash flow, you can either refinance, which is the easy way to pull some of that money out, and then start all over again. You could buy another property in the same area. You could go totally different and get something commercial. I think a lot of people think that there are going to be some really good deals coming up in commercial real estate because of the pandemic. So if that ends up happening, you could steal a piece of property, right? You could get a really good deal on something, be a little bit creative for a while about what goes in there, But that's something we could also talk about offline, because everybody's situation is a little bit different. And we
What
can have
about the rents? As far as the rents, do they consider that income? Because
with
I'm
the bank.
self-employed, so it's tough for the banks to kind of lend money with self-employed people, I think, right? So how does that work with the income?
Yeah, that's true, especially, well, especially now that self-employed people do have a harder time getting a loan, because the banks want to see a lot more. They like a W-2. Oh, here's a piece of paper. The same company's going to pay me every month. Although, obviously, that's a false sense of security, but banks like false senses of security. They're okay with that. And if you're self-employed, yes, your rents do go towards your income. They do count as if your income. So if you're trying to now that you own that property, you've got a positive cash flow, that is going to add to your um, what they consider to be your income. But there again, they're going to want to see 2 years worth of tax returns most likely. So you might not be able to do that right away. You might have to season it a little bit, but good question. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Want to put yourself back on mute there, just because we don't want to have any background noise. Thank you. So if real estate is so great, why isn't everyone doing it? I don't know. Why aren't they? I mean, I would like to shake people up who are just saying, oh, I don't know. People don't know anything, right? Why do you think everybody isn't doing it, right? Right, knowledge. People don't know. They don't know how great real estate is. They don't know how to get into it. They don't know how to get involved in it. So knowledge is definitely a factor. Any other guesses? Money. Absolutely. Yes, you have chosen item number 2. Money is a problem. Some people think that you need to have a ton of money to get invested in real estate. You do need to have something, but you don't need millions at all. You just need a little. What you lack in money, you have to either take on in risk or in energy. And fear. Yes, fear is the number one reason why everybody is not invested in real estate. So I hope that by the end of the evening, you are going to be a little more comfortable and feel like you don't have to be afraid. Like, okay, we can do it. So cash versus leverage. I just want to talk a little bit about that, because if you're in a situation where you could do either, then you might say, well, why should I ever use cash? And usually I do this on a whiteboard, which I don't have here. So I just want to talk it through, and if you have questions or whatever, I'll be happy to create a little spreadsheet that shows things a little bit more clearly. But if you use cash, let's say that we have the same $250,000, and you say, okay, I'm going to go buy a property that costs $250,000. Great, you've got your property and it's making whatever it makes, and you're happy. But somebody else who really loves risk, they decide, I'm going to totally leverage. I'm going to buy, instead of buying one $250,000 property, I'm going to buy 5 $250,000 properties, and I'm going to put $50,000 down payment on every single one. So now I've got 5 properties worth $250,000. So whatever Janie, or let's give her a name that means that she's kind of timid. So Tammy Timid, she is making, let's say, $1,000 a month, but she has no mortgage. She just takes that $1,000, pays her taxes, and just puts it in her pocket. But then we have Betty Bold, and she's like, I love risk, bring it on. I want to get as many properties as I can. She's got those 5 properties that are each worth $250,000. They're all making $1,000 a month. So she's getting $5,000. I mean, she has to pay mortgages, but she's still going to end up making a lot more money every month than Tammy Timid. So you say, okay, so why would I use cash? I don't understand. When the market's going up, there's no reason to use cash. When the market's going up, leverage. It's great. But when the market starts to go down, let's see what happens now if the market goes down by 10%. So Tammy Timid, her $250,000 property is now only worth $225,000. Bummer. But so she's lost $25,000 in value of her money. But Betty Bold, she has lost $25,000 times 5. She's lost $125,000 worth of value with just a 10% downturn in the market. Well, the bad news is that the last market downturn, some of these areas, especially the sort of marginal areas where you're outside of a big city, you may be like on the outskirts, you're an hour out of town. Some of those places in the Boston area went down 60%. So that's not good, right? Betty Bold, if she loses 20%, she basically lost her whole $250,000. She lost $50,000 on every single house. Her whole $250,000 is gone, and all she has left is mortgages. And that's okay too, because as long as her tenants keep paying, then she's fine, because she can just keep making those mortgages and not worry about it. And then when the market goes up, she could sell something. But it's COVID, some of the tenants aren't paying, and now she's lost all her money. And that's what people call being upside down. So now you owe more on the house than it's even worth. And it doesn't make sense to keep it. So Betty's up a creek. Tammy Timid, she still got $200,000 from her original investment, even though the market has gone down 20%. So just think about where the market is and what it's doing if you're in a situation where you could use cash or leverage. Now, money and where to find it. Ordinarily here we have a mortgage broker come in and talk to us a little bit about the different type of loan programs that are available. But actually that is really a conversation that's best had one-on-one, because everyone's situations are so different. But suffice it to say that there are a lot of different type of loan programs that you can get. And if you have a little creativity and a person working with you who is a troubleshooter and who's willing to do a little bit of, spend a little bit of time with you, then you can normally find some way to get money. And it could be what they call a hard money loan. If you're doing a flip and you're going to be selling that property in less than 6 months, normally a bank doesn't want to finance that. So you might have to go with a type of an investor who specializes in a quick turnaround. So they're not going to care too much about your credit. They're going to want to hear about the project. They're not going to care too much about anything except, do I believe that this project is going to do what you say it's going to do, and do I believe that you have the knowledge and the ability to bring that to fruition? So, but it could be that, depending on the type of loan, you could also go to a traditional bank. You could go to a portfolio lender like a local credit union or a local bank. But like I said, those situations are so specific that I think it is more valuable for you or for us to have a sit down with a mortgage broker one-on-one. Market timing and cycles. There are a lot of ways to figure out where we are in the market cycle. I was talking a little bit during the cash and leverage portion about where the market is based on what you want to do, what decisions you want to make based on where the market is. How do we figure out where it is? I feel like the easiest way, there are ways to do it online. You can search. I've got on my website, which if you want to check it out, it's EYIM, which stands for Empower Your Inner Millionaire, book.com. And if you check out the website, there are actually some instructions of what you can do to do some different types of searches that will give you a really good idea of where the market is in any specific area. But in general, if you drive around a neighborhood, you could probably drop me anywhere in the world and I could do a little bit of driving and I could tell you where I think the market is in that area, and just talk to a couple of people. Because like right now in Boston, where I'm in Boston, I'm not in Boston right now, as you can tell from the trees, but I live in the Boston area. And everywhere you go, every place where there used to be a vacant lot, there is now a crane or a building. Where did that come from? All of these new projects are coming online. All kinds of things are happening because we're getting near the top of the cycle. When all that new inventory comes on, all of a sudden, you're going to have people with a lot of options. And that means supply and demand, right? Supply and demand. If there's a lot of supply, then demand is just going to fall off. That's just the way it's going to work. Hi, Chris. So that's just the way life is supply and demand. If you have a lot of inventory, then there are only so many people who are going to be able to buy up that inventory. So you see demand start to sag, and then prices have to come down because some people have to sell. They're going to drop their prices, and that's going to end up having a ripple effect to everybody. So drive around the neighborhood that you're thinking of investing in. Do you see a lot of people fixing up places? Do you see a lot of brand new construction? That's a sign that we're getting near the top of the market. And that can mean that there could be a little bit of a correction, because no matter what anybody tells you, real estate is a cycle. And where do I think we are? I think we're right at the top and getting ready for a little correction, especially in commercial real estate, because so many people have been impacted by COVID, and the people who own those properties are not going to be able to necessarily keep paying, right? If they're leveraged, they may have to let those properties go, and they may have to let them go at a discount. Okay, so you want to, if you have got to the point where you're ready to do something, you are going to want to have people behind you who know what they're doing, especially if you're just getting started. You're going to need a good real estate agent. And I don't say this just because I'm a real estate agent, but I have seen real estate agents who don't even own their own property, who are renting, and they're not necessarily going to be the best people to help you. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, but you want to know, on all the people on your pro team, what experience do you have doing exactly what I'm trying to do? So does your real estate agent know anything about real estate investing? Does your loan officer know anything about loaning into an investment situation? Does your attorney, a real estate attorney, you don't want to choose a criminal lawyer, even though they might be your best friend, to be your real estate attorney, because real estate has its own nuances. The same thing with all of the people on your list. You want a contractor who's familiar with the type of work that you're doing. I actually have a plumber who's a great plumber. I like him very much, but he doesn't do any new construction. He only does repairs. So when you're putting your team together, take your time, interview people, tell them what you have in mind, and then you can definitely find people, and not just people who have the right knowledge, but also people who you mesh with. You want people who, you're building a business, you're building a company in a way that's going to do these sort of investments. So you want to make sure that you trust people, you feel good about the people, nobody's talking down to you just because you're a beginner. You want to make sure that it's people who you feel good about, you feel comfortable working with. So, wow, that was really fast today. I normally take a lot longer to do this because I have lots of questions. So, real estate investing, is it for you? What do you think? If you have questions for me, which I think is the next slide. Oh, what are your next steps? Okay, then we'll get to questions. So what should you do next? If you decide you want to be a real estate investor, what should you do? Set some goals. That, if you know me, you know that's my mantra for everything. Set some goals. What do you want real estate to do for you, and in what time period? What are your financial goals? Because if you came to me and you said, I want to become a real estate investor, I'm going to say, what does that mean to you? How long do you have in your projection to make that, how long is it before you need to retire? How long is it before you need to actually have your property making a steady income stream? Could you take some of the income and put it into your next property, etc.? So definitely set some goals for yourself, or I can help you with that. Again, if you go on to the website byimbook.com, which is from Empower Your Inner Millionaire book.com, there are some goal sheets, there are some questionnaires, there's some information there that can help you to make some decisions about what kind of investor you are, and you're going to need a budget. So as I said, no matter what kind of real estate investing you want to do, you're going to need some money, even if it's just for closing costs. So unless you're doing wholesaling, that really, you just need a time investment. But if you're going to do any other type, put together a budget and see whether you could put aside a little bit of money every month that could help you get to that goal. If you think that the kind of real estate that you're doing could have a conventional loan, then you want to get pre-qualified. And again, I can put you in touch with some folks who are nationwide lenders. So no matter where you are right now at least in the continental United States, I can give you somebody who can help you get pre-qualified. But that's key, because you don't want to go thinking that you can afford $1 million and they tell you, oh, sorry, it's $450, and vice versa. So, and you can also sign up for a half-day workshop. We actually have half-day workshops that are also free, and we sit down together in a room with social distancing right now. I mean, it's going to be a Zoom room right now, but and we just chat about. We start off with goals, and then we start looking at actual pieces of property that could be a fit for you, and then you have some homework to do. I like people to do a virtual home search. So if you get pre-qualified and you find out, oh, I can afford to buy a $250,000 piece of property, I would challenge you to sit in front of the computer and to find what kinds of things you can do with that $250,000 loan. You might say, and people have said this to me before, I can't get anything for $250,000. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you are wrong, because this property that I house hacked here is in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It cost $80,000. I mean, that was 3 years ago, not like 50 years ago. And it now has 2 income-producing properties on that one piece of land. And it's making a nice revenue stream that pays for all kinds of stuff. So no matter what your budget ends up being, I promise you, somewhere in the world, somewhere you are going to be able to turn that into some type of an income stream. So a half-day workshop can really help you with that, to nail that down and to make it feel much more real. And you can join us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, which I will send you out an invitation to after this. It is a private group, but that's a place where you can ask questions and share knowledge with each other. And then build your protein. You're going to start talking to find your mortgage broker, find your real estate agent, find your other folks that you're going to need to make it all a reality. And then most importantly, just do it. Get rid of the analysis paralysis and just do this thing, because it will change your life. It will change your life. Absolutely. And if you own anything today, even if it's the house you live in, I can show you how to make money for you. I took my home on the beach in Revere. It was a ranch, 1,200 square foot ranch. I turned it into a 2-family house. Now there's 2 cute little 1-bedroom units, and one of them is on Airbnb, and it's paying all my expenses. All my expenses, pays for my car, pays for my house, pays for everything. And you can do something like that. So just do it. Okay, question. Chris, I know you joined late, and I feel bad that you missed a lot of stuff, but I will send you a link. And anybody else who tuned in late, I will send you a link so that you can get everything that we talked about. But if anyone had any questions about anything that we talked about, you can either put them in the chat or you can unmute and speak. Speak, Chris.
Am I the only one on this meeting?
At the moment, but we're recording it for other people.
Oh, excellent.
So ask whatever you want. My time is your time.
So most people have the pie in the sky kind of high level, I want to get rich kind of schemes in their heads. You know, I'm just going to buy a house and get rich.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to happen overnight, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, my dream. I mean, my first memory of wanting to get into this is obviously Monopoly when I was a kid. So I always wanted to play real life Monopoly.
Yep.
You know, my goal is big, and that's to be, you know, to have an apartment building.
Yep.
You know, obviously, you know, start out a little bit small, maybe a 2-family, then maybe 4-family. What do you call it? Investment property. What do you call them? Commercial.
Yep.
And then, you know, just grow from there. And you know, there's obviously a lot of tools, a lot of questions, a lot of different, you know, I want to say tricks, but you know, tricks, tips, things like that that are out there, the methods that you can use to get to your goal.
Hmm.
So say I have one house. I have a single family in Attleboro that is being rented by my sister right now.
Yep.
Ooh, time is up. And obviously that now that not obviously, but that house has equity.
Yep.
So, can you borrow equity to borrow against your equity as a down payment to put
Yep.
toward a house? Is that smart? Is that not smart? So things like that. Different ways of coming up with down payments and um, yeah, that's one question is the equity in your house, and can you
Yep.
keep doing it? Buy another house, use that equity, and just basically use all the equity that you have. I know it might be high risk, but does it pay high rewards? I'll start there.
Yeah. Well, those are all very good questions, and it somewhat depends on your unique situation, but if you if you have a fair amount of equity, I mean, the bank isn't going to let you take out 100% of your equity anyway if it's an investment property. So if you have some equity, absolutely refinance. The rates are so low right now. You can take your money out. You can use that money to do something else. And yes, you can absolutely keep doing it. You can invest you can buy your next property, do whatever you're going to do with that, get it all rented up, and then you can potentially pull some equity out of that. Because once you get it rented, a lot of times it changes in the bank's eyes because now you can value it by how much rent you're getting, right? Instead of just like whatever the other comps might be, you can actually
Yep.
say, look, I'm getting this much, so that it's going to support this type of a value, and so yeah, you can just keep churning that out,
Yeah.
and and
And that's
I
what I was hoping. I know the equity it's a certain percentage of the equity. I wouldn't even call this an investment property. It started out as an FHA loan,
yeah
and then yeah, now my sister's renting it out, and I have a 3.345 or something like that on
yeah
that house. Maybe and with the rates being so low, I might want to actually refinance.
exactly. And then you free finance, just tell me how much I can have, and then
Yeah,
you can have a little bit of a something to get started with.
absolutely. So, and a little bit on the side as well. So it's I definitely want to do it, and I definitely have had the analysis paralysis for a long time. So it's time to get out of that and do something about it. My girlfriend Kathy wants to buy a house with me at some point as well, but she owns a condo in Medford, so she wants to sell that first. And I've never been, I've never been the kind that you have to sell your house first. I mean, I know it's going to hurt the debt to income ratio if you don't sell it. You
Well,
can have that mortgage over your
not
head.
if it's rented.
It's a condo. They might have some bylaws on not renting it, but yeah, I'd like to, if there is a way around that, I'd like to have her rent it, and that way it's almost, negligible
Right.
difference. Um, so then we do that. Then we have our own house, and we use that equity in that house, the equity in her house, the equity in my house. So things like that.
Well, would you consider living in a two-family or one of the? Because if you live there, all of a sudden things are so much easier. If you're living in one of the units, even if it's a four-family, if you're living in one of the units, then you can get lower down payment. You can have better terms, better interest rates, everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did when I was single. I wouldn't mind, having done that, but I'm not sure if Kathy wants to do that. I think she just wants the next house to be a
Yeah, yeah.
single family, probably a ranch because we have a dog, things like that.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, you might want to get your investment property first,
sure.
actually, because you might find the financing easier. And you could, I mean, I didn't say this, but you could say that you're going to live in the house and then change your mind. I mean,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
change their mind all the time.
yeah.
So it's no
Yeah.
law against changing your mind. And
And
but
I do have a family house in South Boston that is what do you call it? Um, probation. That's not the word. Oh, what's the word when I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this word. So when somebody passes away,
it's in probate.
probate the house. So
Yeah.
I guess that's could be probation. Probate.
Not the way you think of probation, though.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's a big probate nightmare with family members that are not seen, and of course, a South Boston house
Yeah.
with no mortgage has
Yeah.
quite the equity on it right now. So
Yeah,
I just need
definitely.
to get that in my name. So I need to talk to good attorneys
Yeah.
on things like that as
Yeah.
well. So maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hold up your program. I just want to throw out ideas from the average person because I'm very average, and
I appreciate
hopefully,
that.
yeah, hopefully that'll add to the program. I do have
Yeah.
it. I do have it drop at like 7:20, 7:25 ish. I just want to let you know that. So
Yeah. No, actually, I'm actually finished. So this was kind of the end of the program. I'll send you a link to the recording so you can see the beginning. But when it's a one-on-one and people are in the room asking questions the whole time, which is I usually invite a lot of interactivity when it's in person. So
yeah,
it went really fast without that interactivity.
yeah, and I can put the word out there for the half-day workshops. See if people are interested. So you get the double-edged sword here. You get the great rates, but the rates are great because we have because the economy is in the dump right now. And high unemployment rates may mean people don't have the money, or they're afraid to spend the money. They either have a job, or they're afraid of losing their job, or they've already lost their job. So it's
Yeah.
tough to generate that kind of money, and so yeah. I mean, what do you do in that situation? That's why rates are low, but you can't take advantage of it.
Well, I don't know. I feel you can still take advantage. There's always a way to find a situation that feels comfortable to you and that is also going to make money, right? I mean, I think that, well, as an example, so my boyfriend John, who you met, he he sold his home and he was looking for an investment, and he was directed with my help to the North Conway area, because up here, which
Hmm.
is where I am right now, as you can see the trees, up here there's almost no housing for, there's a big disparity here in income levels. So you have people who own the business and you have the people who work at the cash register, right? There's no real middle class here. And it's really tough for people who are at the cash register to get rent, because this is a vacation type of place. So lots of people who have rental property, they want to just put it on Airbnb and have holiday renters instead of having full-time tenants. So he had a property, he had one of his units come up for rent, and I don't know, I think he got basically he got, I don't know, 30 people applying, and then he met with maybe like the top 5 or 6 and had it
Yeah.
rented in an afternoon, and he hasn't had any trouble with people paying their rent. Everything's just been really good. I mean, and that might be the best case scenario, because right now the numbers in Boston area just don't work that well. You're going to
No.
pay a ton of money for something and you're not going to make that much in rent. And in that scenario too, if one of your tenants isn't paying, then you're in a much worse situation, where like this one, there's 5 units. So if somebody stops paying, you still have 4 other units to pay the rent.
And that's
So
why I want to go commercial, absolutely.
yeah,
And then you're talking about the different states, and I know it's a renter's market, not a
in
renter's market, but
Massachusetts,
it's a renter's. Renter has the advantage in Massachusetts. I'm not
yeah,
sure about New Hampshire.
just the opposite.
It
Just the
is.
opposite. Yeah.
So I don't want to be harsh, but if you have a bad tenant, you can kick them out and don't have to go through the whole half a year trying to evict them, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's much more. I mean, you still have to obviously go through the courts and stuff like that, but they're not assuming. In Massachusetts, they seem to assume that if you have money, if you have rental property, I should say, that you're some kind of a slumlord, as opposed to New Hampshire, where they feel like if you're a deadbeat tenant, then if someone's not paying, then it's the tenant's fault, rather than that the landlord is just horrible. Because Massachusetts, the tenant can just say, "Oh, he was mean to me, and the house was cold, and this happened and that happened," and then, "Oh, that's so sad. You can stay another 6 months."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's really quite a bit different. So.
Yeah, a friend of mine went through it here, and I mean, a person can't lose 6 months of rental income when they're paying a mortgage on that house. It's
Right.
just it becomes tough.
Exactly. Exactly.
So just a lot of just yeah. So that's my
Yeah.
goal. My eventual goal is an apartment building. Um,
Excellent.
I go by, I've gone by a couple in my lifetime where I'm just, oh, I like own those couple of round buildings that go up like, 20, 30, stories.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to be realistic and, maybe 5 or 6 to start with.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, once you get the first one, the other one, I mean, it's easier the more you have, obviously. So,
Yeah, because you're dealing with the equity and, the rental incomes and things like that. So,
right, right.
yeah, I just, do you get to a point where you say, hey, I do want the big building. I need to go out and get investors to join me with
Yeah,
it, or
yeah.
VC people, or
Well, not necessarily. You might just build up to it. And then you just, as you're building up your credit, you're building up your portfolio. And
yeah,
then maybe one day you say, okay, I've got a couple little properties. I'm going to sell them all and I'm going to buy this one that I've been dreaming about or build it. Could be another option.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you build it, they will come. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I do have several questions, but yeah, if you have any links or any information that you can send me, that would be great. I know the process starts with a prequal,
Mhm.
um, and
And you might want to get evaluations. You can just use estimates right now just to kind of figure out how much your different properties are worth. That will help you just to have an
well,
idea of what you're working with as far as resources and stuff.
yeah, I don't know how accurate things. I would have to have an assessor come out. I would, or an appraiser come out. I would imagine, but I'm not sure how accurate things like Trillo or Zillow or Trulia are.
Yeah. They're actually normally not that bad. And usually, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, it'll tell you in that area what their likelihood is that they're going to be accurate. Like they'll say, in this area, we're within 10% or we're within 20% of what the appraised values tend to come back at.
Okay, yeah, because I know I got the house in Attleboro, and all of a sudden I'm getting tons of calls. People, want to buy my house in
Yeah.
Attleboro. I'm like, really? That's Attleboro.
I know. Who wants to live in Attleboro? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still no inventory in Boston. So it's
Yeah.
not, I feel like if you want to sell it, now's a fantastic time because I don't think that these values are going to stay high like this. If you want to keep it, then refinance and do it now before the value starts to go down. Same thing, as long
Yeah.
as you're comfortable with that. So,
I'd have to sell it, but I'd also have to buy something maybe then at that point because I went against my goal the first time in getting the multifamily, the two family, because I couldn't afford it by myself. And
yeah,
FHA, it was tough.
yeah,
I found this beautiful place, big backyard once, but it was right near the railroad tracks. And I'm like, yeah, don't want them breathing in that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I could sell it, and as long as I got maybe went with my goal the second time around in Attleboro, because my family wants to stay there because of the school system and things like
okay,
that. So,
yeah, yeah,
um, so I would get it. I could turn that around, have them move into a 2 or 3 unit, and have them take one of
yeah.
the units,
Hmm.
and he does repairs, so I could actually use him as a what do you call it, a property
Yeah, he
manager.
could be yeah, exactly. He could be your on-site super.
Yeah, yeah, and give him a discount on the rent as long as I
Yeah,
have other rentals coming in.
yeah,
So I think that'd be my next goal before I start getting into the bigger properties and
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, just so anyway, I have to, there's a lot of homework for me to do as far as the South Boston house goes and lawyers. So if you know any good, probate lawyers, that'd be, that you can recommend, that'd be great. I do have to do some homework with that.
Yeah,
So
I'll ask around and see if I can. If I haven't had to, fortunately, haven't had to work with one, but I know I'll just ask the office there. There's a wealth of resources there, so I'll
sure.
get a good referral for you for that.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. And obviously, I already have my real estate agent, so.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, anyone that puts out, that kind of time and effort into just helping people, they're in it for the love. So I've
For
had
sure,
I've
for
had some
sure.
bad real estate agents just trying to sell the property to flip it, and not having your best interests, and only
Yeah.
having their bottom line at interest. And I get it. You have to make money. That's
Mhm.
you're not busting your butts
You
to.
can't chase the money though. It's not. This isn't about. And actually, legally, a real estate agent has a fiduciary responsibility to their client. So for them to put their needs and their financial situation ahead of yours is actually illegal.
Yeah.
Never mind unethical and crappy. I mean, that's. But that's just my opinion.
No, that's a good opinion. That's a good opinion. Um, so I know I've been played before, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I know you're playing me. I'm going to get out of this contract and
Yeah,
get a different agent. I'm not stupid.
yeah.
Um, so I knew the other side of the coin. I knew the other people that were selling the property, and I'm like, yeah. So you didn't know I knew those people. So yeah, I knew a lot more than you were letting on. Um, so one more question, and I will let you end this. What is the difference between a real estate agent and a broker, real estate broker?
uh, Basically the broker. So I actually have my broker's license. It's another level,
Okay.
but in most, I also work under a broker, the guy who owns my franchise, my Remax franchise. So it is a different license. That's the quick answer. But also in a transaction, you can't pay an agent directly. You would pay the broker, and then the broker would pay the agent. So it's that kind of a funneling thing. But the
Sure.
broker is basically the one who's taking on all the liability. So if I make a mistake, then my broker is the one who's going to have to be fighting, in court if someone sues me or whatever. So
Sure.
they're the ones taking on the liability for the transaction. And that's your first line of defense if something went wrong.
Did they get the listings first? No, not necessarily.
What do you
Not
mean?
at all.
Some brokers do real estate as well. Some, don't. Some just manage the office from an admin perspective and have all the agents report up to them. But some also buy and sell real estate. But if you gave your listing to an agent, it's the agent is going to bring it into the office, but it's going to basically stay that agent is going to manage it, but the
Yeah.
broker, like I said, takes on the liability.
Okay. Excellent. Good answer.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because I've had that question for a while, and yeah, it was a very descriptive answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
I'll draw up a lot of my questions and maybe send them, and I'll say not maybe, but I will send them to you. But yeah, it's time to get on the stick and start doing something about the goal that I've had my whole life. So
Yeah. We're not getting younger, are we, Chris?
no, and it makes it harder. It definitely makes it harder.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good point. I'm 50 at this point, so when I started having these dreams, I was in my 20s and I didn't do anything about it. So
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. I mean, I've always done like flips, not flips. I've done these long-term flips. So I buy a house, I live in it while
yeah,
I'm fixing it up. And then as soon as it's nice, I'll say, oh, okay, I got to sell it now and go move to some other shithole and, fix that up. But so those I've done for a very long time, but
sure,
getting on it and saying, look, stop playing around, let's get some passive income going here. That I was 50 before I started doing that. So it's totally doable. It's definitely, don't think, oh, now I'm going to have to be 100 before I can retire. That is not at all the case. We just have to be strategic about it. And I'm
yeah, yeah.
actually, right, I wrote a book already about, real estate investing, but my next one is called the 10-year plan, which is basically it's a paragraph in my other book, and I'm turning it into this whole book. But basically, it's how you can absolutely retire in 10 years
No,
by
nice.
buying real estate. So.
All right, well, I'll have to hitch my wagon to your star, or hitch my star to your wagon. I don't know. Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, because the goal, the ultimate goal is to have the city income and to buy our own property, which either something in. I like to buy a house in Spain,
Yes.
Southern Spain would be nice. And then, even rent that out when I'm not there.
Exactly.
Uh,
The Airbnb model. Love it. I love it.
Absolutely. So,
Yep.
okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Well,
Good.
we'll have to have a 6 foot distance, six distance lunch at some point, and
Yes.
I'll just keep doing this. Next time I'll put my video on. I just didn't want to interrupt your video with my face. So,
Well, we can have a private call or a lunch would be even better, actually.
all right, perfect. I'll bring Kathy. You bring
Excellent.
John.
I'll bring John. We'll have a little lunch and dinner or whatever. That
Maybe
sounds great.
maybe a waiter. Okay.
Yeah, a little masked ruin.
We did that. We did that recently. We did it. We put the masks on and we put the gloves on, and we did a Rueda. And then we started out doing no touching, but then we started touching, and then we had the hand sanitizer and everything, and we made a big